I was actually stuck with, well, business. Siddharth, uh,
What's up, everybody?
sorry to keep you waiting for so long today, but
Big day today.
yeah, huge day. Uh, but let's start with some good news.
Yeah,
Very good news. Uh, the NSE BSE to roll out T+1 settlements for stocks from February 25th. I don't know. I think even in the stock market, India has some pretty good technology. I think they could have done it faster, but previously it was T+2, if I'm not wrong, right, Siddharth?
yep, yep. Plus two.
Yeah. So just take us through this.
Yeah, man. Like long time coming. T plus
Mm-hmm.
one settle. Like every major market follows T plus one settlements,
Yep.
and because we were following T plus two, you know, it was a it was a hindrance more than anything for a lot of institutional investors as well as retail investors to
Right.
actually put in the money.
Mm.
Now that we've so basically T plus one settlement uh, is is saying कि trading के अगले दिन आपका settlement हो जाएगा. So if you've traded some stocks, तो अगले दिन आपका जो भी profit या loss होता है वो आपके account में आ जाएगा और settlement वो stocks का उस market में हो जाएगा. और पहले ये T+2 T+3 मतलब 2 दिन में होता था. अगर आपने notice किया अगर आप कोई share बेचते हो तो आपके अकाउंट में रिफ्लेक्ट होने में वो अमाउंट 2 दिन लगते हैं. दैट इज बिकॉज द मार्केट फॉलोड दैट रूल अपने मार्केट्स.
Yep.
और
I yeah.
मार्जिन का जो रिक्वायरमेंट होता है सेटलमेंट साइकिल में, सो दिस टी
This
प्लस
needs to be
वन,
just blocked for one day. That's very good.
because it will be blocked only for one day, it's a much easier way to put in more liquidity now.
Very good for institutional investors. Very, very good for retail
Retail
investors.
investors, yep.
Look, I'm saying very honestly, I hope more and more Indians get into the equity markets. I hope more and more companies think of becoming public, because the compliance requirements of a company becoming public is a lot more, and you'll have more disciplined companies, is what I feel.
Yep.
And this
Going
is
public
just,
is the only way to, grow ethically and ambitiously. Like if you want a combination of both, then
yep,
your end goal should be to, go public and then grow from there.
yep. So, really good news. What I'm also glad is, well, with the current scenario, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah.
I honestly feel the only thing which will save the Indian equity market, which has been at a crazy bull run for so long, is retail investors not wanting to, dump their positions. So small, news like this, good news like this adds up, and
And also, like, there's a little condition also here that this will roll out from February 21st, and it'll first roll out in the bottom 500 stocks, which are most traded, right? And it'll be rolled out in phases. So first it'll come in the first 500 bottom stocks, and then it'll keep climbing from there. The next 500, the next 500. So it's not going to happen at one go.
I have another thing to say here.
Mhm.
Uh, Especially when you're talking about public companies, there's two parts to a public company. The
Right.
first part is regulating, well, making sure that the public companies financially behave properly, the
Mhm.
management and promoters, wherein you're auditing their books regularly, making sure there's no fraud and all. In
Right.
that part, India sucks. But in terms of handling transactions in the trading market and all, I think India is pretty good. I have rarely
We have
seen,
the technological know-how and the infrastructure both.
and the people in SEBI, I think overall are, at least from the trading side and the transaction side, I think they're pretty good.
Yep.
So
And there is political will also. So that is
yeah.
a good thing.
So audit, I hope they bump it up. I know for a fact public companies dealing with a lot of off the books transactions. I hope
Yep.
that stops. But the small news like this, really pushes things in the right direction, I would say.
Especially now that that Yogi was running the whole NSE for
Oh,
a while.
bro,
So
that's.
it's a good sign that they're actually
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that didn't really hit the equity market hard enough. I don't know. Like, there's something weird going on there.
no,
But
this like it's because firstly it happened 6 years ago, right? 8 years ago. This is
yeah,
2014.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the investigation is also still going on. They've not filed the final report.
Yep.
So waiting for that. Once that comes out, I'm sure it's gonna have some effect on the markets.
Exactly. Moving on to our next story. Now, this is pretty interesting, and I have a lot to say about this.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So, Bharat Pay sacks Ashneer Grover's wife Madhuri Jain, cloud over use of funds. Okay, so of course, I hope you guys have seen the Shark Tank. Ashneer Grover is supposed to be the practical and realistic guy and talks about dhanda and all. So Siddharth, I don't know if you like what I have to say here.
Mhm.
Every person, जो भी बंदा, of course, ये चीज है कि there's nothing proven against Ashneer Grover yet. अभी तक
Yep.
इन्वेस्टिगेशन वगैरह चल रहा है, इनका खुद का इंटरनल ऑडिट चल रहा है, पर जो भी बंदा मैं मिला हूँ जो बात करता है कि बॉस धंधा करना है, ठीक है, धंधा,
Right.
आई फाउंड दोज गाइज आर द मोस्ट fucked up financially. When I say that, I mean पहली इलीगल चीज वही करेंगे, सबसे पहले कुछ ना कुछ जुगाड़ू काम वही करेंगे, और रेयरली बिजनेस एथिकली बिल्ड करेंगे. I have not met one guy who talks about धंधा करना है from the standpoint of, you know, trying to run a business actually ethically by adding value and being right with books and all that.
Right.
जो भी मेरे से ऐसे बोलता है कि धंधा करूंगा, बस पैसा कमाना है, धंधे का काम, भाई कुछ ना कुछ तो लफड़ा है बंदे में. इट्स लाइक ओवर कॉम्पनसेट कर रहा है वो, ठीक है.
Right.
ही इज ओवर कॉम्पनसेटिंग, एंड दिस इज नॉट द केस फॉर अश्नीर ग्रोवर, आई डोंट नो, बट आई एम सेइंग इन जनरल, मैंने जब भी देखा है ना, जो भी बिजनेस पर्सन से इंटरेक्ट किया है, जो
हाँ.
बात करता है कि धंधा करना है और बस पैसे के लिए धंधा करते हैं, ऑल दैट शिट, ओवर कॉम्पनसेट कर रहा है भाई. और बहुत मॉरल कॉम्पस जनरली मैंने देखा है उनका स्क्रूड अप होता है, बहुत रेयरली लॉन्ग टर्म बिजनेस बिल्ड कर पाता है, ठीक है.
नहीं, अगर कर भी लेना तो भी it's at what cost? I don't know. Like I would any day pick a guy who's built $100 million company ethically over a guy who's built $1 billion company
धंधा करके.
unethically. है ना? So yeah,
एंड
that's a
दिस इज,
personal choice.
और मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ कि दिस इज बिकॉज वो हिंदी में ऐसे बोला धंधा करना है, नहीं. इट्स लाइक वो जो टोन होता है ना, जैसे वो एक्सप्लेन करते हैं कि बिजनेस का
Exactly.
पर्पस क्या है एंड ऑल दैट,
Exactly.
इट्स सो, आई हैव नॉट अर्नड इनफ मनी टू फकिंग स्क्रू देयर केस. हैड आई अर्न, चाटा मारता मैं मुंह पे, ठीक है.
No, it's not about earning enough money or no. It's about having the ethics, having the moral compass
And
to be a good person.
not just that,
That doesn't need you to earn money. Like
and this was something which I learned the hard way. I think you will also agree with me personally कि I'd be proud when I was young, when I was in my teenage, KO, I am like a straightforward and blunt person,
right.
and I'm talking to the face, and I realized कि being blunt and straightforward is just me not being a good communicator.
It is like because you're not ready to use the tools at your disposal
Exactly,
get
to
shit
try to
done, you
try
know.
to communicate your point. And even if I'm saying something good or bad, doesn't matter. If I'm gonna be a dick about it, no one. So
Nobody likes.
so when I read this news, so I've been, you know, seeing a lot of Shark Tank episodes, and I tried to read up on all the founders, and Ashneer Grover was one of them. And when I read this news, largely I was like, I expected some shit like this to come up.
Yeah, even I like. I'll tell you honestly, when I read the BMW वाला scene ना, that is when I was like, ये कुछ तो scene हो रहा है इधर, मतलब. But I'm not saying I knew कि ऐसा सब shitty scene है. But all I'm saying is, your values are not at the right place. Now, like over here, his wife was sacked because apparently there were alleged misappropriation of funds and
Okay.
allegations that she used company funds to purchase beauty products and pay for family trips to US and Dubai. this is this is just hilarious after a point, dude. This is not even like आप भारत पे इतना बड़ा बैंक है अभी ना, अभी तो उसका बैंक का भी लाइसेंस है. एंड इमेजिन टिल टुडे और टिल yesterday Madhuri Jain was handling the finances and the controls over all operations. They did not have a CFO.
भाई इंडिया में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट नाम का चीज है ही नहीं.
नहीं ये अच्छा, ये यहाँ पे कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट भी नहीं आता यार. आपने किसी को रखा है टू हैंडल फाइनेंसेस, ठीक है, बट अगर आप एक बैंक हो, एक पेमेंट कंपनी हो, एक फिनटेक कंपनी हो, तो आपका सीएफओ कम से कम एक क्वालिफाइड बंदा तो होना चाहिए ना, जिसको फाइनेंस वाइनेंस. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि माधुरी जैन को फाइनेंस नहीं पता, ठीक है, पता होगा. मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ कि एक प्रोफेशनल आदमी होना चाहिए इन द सीएफओ's प्लेस, who will make sure that there are no misappropriation of funds.
और
Corporate governance क्या होता है, यही तो होता है.
और एक और चीज मैं बोलना चाहूंगा. दिस इज वन ऑफ द रीजंस व्हाई इंडियन कंपनीज स्टिल डोंट अट्रैक्ट ह्यूज इन्वेस्टमेंट्स इफ यू आस्क मी, बिकॉज प्रमोटर्स पे विश्वास नहीं है. This particular line, I want to read this particular line and I want to tell you how we Indians generally think about this. Madhuri Jain has been accused of paying her personal staff out of company accounts, which is fine, which is like fucked up in itself, but and produced fake invoices from known friendly parties they added. Okay, now
अबे यार,
so
चिंदी
why
चोरेगा यार. तुम साला बैंक का ओनर हो, तुम चिंदी चोरियां क्यों कर रहे हो?
so why did I read out this line? I have met big business people who take pride in, I'm talking about fucking, probably like publicly traded company level stuff, who will be like, all my suppliers are my family.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. But in this particular case, when a company is at this size and this scale and this scope, if you don't have a tendering process in your purchase department where anyone can participate, probably जिस बंदों को इन्होंने दिया है, समझ फाड़ू बंदे, ठीक है, बेस्ट लेवल सप्लायर है भाई. इस स्केल पे जब तुम आते हो ना, ऑप्टिक्स बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. इसके बारे में हम बात कर रहे थे थोड़ी देर पहले ही, सिद्धार्थ.
राइट.
यू कैन नॉट, मैं इग्नोर कर सकता हूँ, समझो मेरा खुद का धंधा है, मेरा खुद का पैसा लगता है, मैं बेंचो मेरे भाई के साथ ही बिजनेस करूंगा, वो मेरा लॉयर है, उसी के साथ करूंगा, गांड मराओ. पर यू हैव फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स इन्वॉल्व, यू हैव मल्टीपल फाउंडर्स इन्वॉल्व. What would you do? You would try to get a tendering process and try to get yourself out of the equation.
Right.
So if like this is something which I have tried to do, for instance, in very small way, but say I get an intern who's a relative, I try to send it to you and Kishore to interview instead of me interviewing, because there's an inherent bias.
Yeah, that is what a Chinese wall is like. वो concept पता होना चाहिए आपको कि अगर तेरा हल्का सा भी conflict of interest का hint भी है, तो you should distance yourself from that equation, and that is a moral person's choice, है ना, and a moral
Right.
person will always distance himself. अब
Exactly.
अगर आपकी lines blurred है ना between what is moral and what is not moral, and you're like ये सब गांड मराओ, ये सब हटाओ, धंधा करना है, तो वो फिर प्रॉब्लम आती है यार. एंड वी आर सीइंग द रिपरकशंस ना, लाइक.
Or even if Ashneer and his wife have not done anything, like वो जो supplier होगा, फाड़ू supplier होगा, the fact that they have been so closely involved in those transactions is enough to fuck up its value, dude.
ऑल्सो इट्स दे लाइक, अगर आपका रिलेटिव्स है और आप सप्लाई उनसे ले रहे हो, ठीक है, इट्स ओके इफ दे आर क्वालिफाइड, आप ले उनसे. बट हियर द इशू इज नॉट इवन दैट. हियर द इशू इज आप फेक इनवॉइसेस उनसे ला के दे रहे हो ताकि आप
Yeah.
अपना खर्चा निकाल सको. दैट इज फक्ड अप, dude. Like,
Dude, and one
I
more.
think there'll be so many things that will come out of the back, and that is why Ashneer Grover is like, I will settle the whole thing, but I want a guarantee that there will be no future action taken against me.
So he knows there's some weird shit which is there.
Obviously
Dude, and
he
he's
knows.
also offered his shares worth like 3,000 crores for 750 crores. You know that, right?
So
It's like, what the fuck, dude?
so even he knows na that it is insanely overvalued.
Oh, I'm.
But yeah, man, like.
So I was reading I was reading an article about Steve Jobs, today morning itself, and how like he was an asshole and he was a dick and all that stuff, and that is like one in like a million founders who was like that, who happened to be a genius and ridiculously successful.
हाँ.
Uh, so many founders I've seen attempt to be dicks and assholes, and
No,
more
but
often than not,
if
I've seen stories like this come up where they actually are fucking something up royally.
हाँ नहीं अगर आप हो भी ना if you are even if you are a dick or whatever you are getting tolerated then your products better be as good as an iPhone or as good as a fucking Mac. If
Exactly.
not, then please calm down and get to work. Like Steve Jobs could do all that and he was tolerated because he was a genius, dude. We need to understand and accept that everybody is not a genius. That guy was one in a generation. Everybody is not that, but if सबको बनना है अब क्या करेगा? But yeah, this should be a good lesson for startups in having corporate governance in place once you become big and not
And
giving
dude,
things to your
this
relatives.
is this is also, if you ask me, this is also them being stingy pricks. Okay,
हाँ.
like not wanting to hire proper chartered accountants and lawyers
Yep,
and
yep.
company secretaries and all that.
ऑल्सो
And
प्रोफेशनल जाएंगे तो फिर वो सवाल करेंगे ना सवाल थोड़ी चाहिए.
एग्जैक्टली, धंधा करना है हमको तो धंधा,
हाँ, तो
सीधा
करो
धंधा करना है, ठीक है.
करो धंधा. I just feel bad for the others at Bharat Pay because everybody has to go
Yeah,
through that now.
and
Those guys have worked hard, dude. Like they've built a good, solid company.
I know, dude, Bharat Pay is a amazing brand,
Yep.
and I'm not at all saying Ashni Grover or Madhuri Jain. I don't know like what has happened. What I know is this just looks bad, and if there's so much smoke, there's definitely fire somewhere.
Obviously, yeah.
So
Let's see how this goes.
yeah, I mean that's like one of the reasons why I have been, like so I get turned off when I see people who talk about dhanda, dhanda, dhanda and all, dude. I'm like, boss, कुछ तो तुम बकचोदी करने वाले हो, which will fuck shit up.
Yeah, that's a good reference point to, that's a good red flag to notice.
Exactly. So moving on to our next story, uh, the story of the night, guys. Story of the day, of the night, for probably the next few months.
Yep.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced a special military op to protect the Donbas region, the separatist held region in eastern Ukraine.
This is this is this is like history does not repeat itself, but it is surely parallel. Like if you remember, if you know, like the Spanish pandemic happened in 1918, and then the World War One followed 2 years later. This is just the same shit all over again. And even that started in the same fucking region. It started in Poland. These guys have given us all three world wars, I think. Now I'm just saying that. Okay, first let's just cover what's happened. Okay, like so the foreign minister of Ukraine has said that Putin has launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Okay, peaceful Ukrainian cities are under strikes.
Yep.
This is a war of aggression.
Yep.
The world can and must stop Putin. The time to act is now. This is the Ukraine's foreign minister. And Putin's logic is that
I'm
only
breathing.
protecting.
I'm breathing and I'm trying to just calm down because
Yeah.
this.
Putin's logic is कि भाई मैं अपना country protect कर रहा हूँ और सुबह सुबह dude he came in a press conference and he announced that I'm going to do this and he followed that with an open challenge और खुला धमकी दिया है कि कोई भी अगर बीच में आएगा तो उसको नहीं बख्शा जाएगा तो आप सोच के या ना he's talking like a thug dude गली का गुंडा जैसा बात करता है ना वैसा बात कर रहा है ये कि मैं मार दूंगा कोई बीच में आ गया तो I think this shit is serious, dude. Now.
This is gonna escalate so quickly into so much weird shit.
Yeah.
And wow. So I am I heard this news in the morning when I was in middle of a online networking event, Siddharth,
Right, right.
and for the remainder of so I heard it like 7:30 a.m.
Hmm.
For the remainder of the event, I couldn't even like focus. I was just thinking about this and reading up on what's going on and all that. Now, why am I shit scared about this? I actually just told my dad, "Ki, be prepared for some weird ass shit over the next few months."
Yeah,
Now, why was I shit scared about this? You, COVID killed a lot of people, but in the end of the day, it was a disease. It was something which could be controlled, contained, and the world got together to fight it, and they did.
right.
If you ask me right now, at least as far as I can tell, COVID is fucked.
Yep.
This case, there was no sides when you had COVID. Everyone was against COVID. Like,
Yeah.
no one was for COVID. But this case, I am like shit scared because I don't know what India is going to do. I don't know what China is going to do. And I know for sure that USA is like, it's in a fuck all situation because the president can't talk for God's sake.
Yeah.
And he's like the commander in chief of the of the world's biggest, baddest army. Okay, wow. And he's demented. So I don't know who's really calling the shots in the US. And immediately after Russia launched the attack, our neighbor went and met Russian Prime President.
Yeah, what was that, dude?
And
No, this was
Ukraine is like
before
a
he attacked. He
okay.
landed, and after 2-3 hours of his landing and meeting, some representative of Putin, after 2-3 hours, Putin attacked.
And the reason I'm saying this is Ukraine and Pakistan have a lot of business deals and defense deals which have been done. Now, why am I telling all this? Which are the sides? And as a country, you always want to be on the winning side, right?
Yep.
How are you gonna figure out which is gonna be the winning side? You'll be like, oh, of course, it's gonna be like the democratic nations and all. Really? Have you seen Russia? The moment Russia invaded Ukraine, first is they're not calling it an invasion. Putin very specifically said it's a military operation to support the people of the Donbass. Secondly, of course, it's an invasion. Secondly, just a couple of hours ago, China flew planes into Taiwan. Now,
Right.
why am I bringing all this shit up? So, we live in an extremely global world. Taiwan makes silicon, Russia gives petrol, China supplies to the whole world. I'm not talking about, fancy toys and equipment, right? I'm talking about fucking critical medical equipment.
Dude, Russia gives one out of every 10 barrels, 1 barrel is Russian of oil.
Yeah, it gives 10% of the world's oil.
Yeah.
And the business community has obviously responded. Gold prices have shot up, stock market has crashed. I think investments are going to get very tight. I think
Okay, wait. Okay, Nikhil, this is breaking. Okay.
Okay.
Reports are coming in that Russian soldiers have entered the Chernobyl nuclear facility and they're taking over the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine. I think this is. I'll tell you honestly. See, this is. So Chernobyl is, if people don't know, Chernobyl is the disaster. Is the reasons the Soviet Union broke down. Okay. After that, the Soviet Union collapsed, and they are now 12 different countries.
it was the linchpin.
It was the linchpin, right?
Yeah.
And Putin is very emotional about the USSR disintegrating. He called it the greatest catastrophe in the 20th century, the USSR disintegration. Just to remind you guys, there were 2 world wars in the same century. Okay. So he thinks the disintegration is bigger than the world war. And he knows that it started from the Chernobyl nuclear plant. So I think this is his emotional side talking more than anything, because it doesn't make any sense to capture the Chernobyl nuclear plant. And just like a friendly reminder, okay, in 1994, Ukraine voluntarily disarmed and let go of its nuclear warheads to US, UK, Russia in return for protection of its sovereignty and republic of its nation, of its nation's sovereignty and itself being a nation. It gave
So I'm
up
sorry,
nuclear warheads.
whoever the leader was, lol.
Yeah, exactly. It is, and he gave it up to Russians and the US in exchange for saying that they will come and protect us. So I think, yeah,
Dude,
man,
and you know what Biden has done? He's announced economic sanctions.
there is like I don't even. Oh my god.
What the fuck, dude? Like, भाई भाई ट्रम्प चूतिया था, ठीक है, इतना भी चूतिया नहीं था. मैं क्या बोलूं? मैं जब पढ़ रहा हूँ ना, वो मैं 3-4 मीम देखा हूँ, ठीक है. Can you send aircrafts and like fucking defense and all that shit Ukraine soldiers? और वहाँ पे बाइडन का फोटो है और उसके नीचे here's 10% extra tax. Like, what the fuck, bro? Like, कुछ होता है ना, like proportionate response या
I think this is also because, see, Ukraine is the largest natural gas transporter in the world. Okay.
of course. So
Plus, it
Putin
has
has his eyes on that, right?
Plus, it has 15 nuclear reactors. Right next to Ukraine is Kazakhstan. Okay. Kazakhstan is the number one uranium producer in the world at 43%. Uranium is what is used to generate energy in the nuclear reactors.
Right.
Okay. Kazakhstan is covered, Ukraine is covered. Next is Taiwan. Okay. China has already entered Taiwan. Now, TSMC, as you know, produces 92% of the world's sub 10 nanometer chips. Energy and computation are the currencies of the world. Okay. And China and Russia together are trying to monopolize both of them.
Yep.
That is the long game. And it is insane.
And I don't think in this particular case, in this particular scenario, things look good for one is the United States, of course, but for a lot of democratic nations across the globe.
Yeah, Ukraine is a democratic nation.
Yeah,
How much
and
time did it take for Putin to invade?
yeah, and so
Yeah,
let's
man,
see.
like, let's just see what happens. Hopefully, we don't have to participate in the war because we don't really
We
are
can't
in the
afford a war,
condition.
dude.
Yeah,
We're in
we
a
are
very
not in
fuck all
the.
situation. And no, look, I'm always, boss, just make money. Uh, I don't know, man. I'm extremely
Yeah, just a very
extremely
sad,
concerned.
sad
I
situation.
hope I don't know what happens. I hope it somehow gets de-escalated very quickly, and I don't know how that'll happen. Uh, I don't want this to continue because
Nobody
of
does, dude. It's war. Who likes war?
and of course, like a lot of people are like tickets or optics and all that stuff, and that's true. But
It's not. It's not. This time, it's not. Because, see, nobody apart from Putin knows what's going to happen. And Putin is very emotional about Ukraine.
no, first thing is Siddharth, the emotional side is what he needs to convince the Russian people. But Putin is one of the most calculated, incredible psychopaths of the world. So,
Yeah, no, I'm saying despite being the most analytical guy, he is still very emotional when it comes to Ukraine. Because most of Russia's culture, most of Russia's politics come from Ukraine and Ukrainians.
yep. So he's not gonna stop. He doesn't have a reason to stop.
Yeah.
I don't think United States does jack shit. In fact, Biden is going live in a minute, Siddharth. Actually, now
You want to see that?
let me try to play it. Let's see. And when so Reddit is like savage. Okay, so when they shared the link of that live on Reddit, the first top voted comment was, "I have so much faith in my president that he's gonna fumble something which is playing on the teleprompter." Why? Joe Rogan. I love watching Joe Rogan shows. Okay, and
Uh,
someone told ki you're pro-Trump and all, and he's like, I'm anti-Trump, I'm anti-Biden, but I at least want someone who can fucking talk to be my leader. That's why he voted for Trump. But anyway,
Okay.
so anyway, let's move to our next story. ये अभी चलते रहेगा काफी time. Let's see.
हाँ.
As a business owner, what I would say is be very careful. Try to cut down on a lot of your costs.
Yep.
And see how it works. Moving on to our next story. This was a shocker. Okay. LIDO Learning shuts staff, clients in the lurch. Lack of funds compounds problems.
Unpaid dues, but like they just raised $10 million last September, sorry.
So
And they've
let's read
raised
out.
27.3 million in total.
See, so when I read this story, right, I mean, shit happens, startup shutdown, that's fine. Point is when you're getting to a level where you're raising these values of amounts, right?
Yep.
The first thing you do is you hire a good kick-ass CFO. He plans out your finances such that you have burn for at least 18 months.
Yep.
They take that as a benchmark. And what happens is, of all the management team of the leadership, there's 2 or 3 significant people who are consistently during those 18 months working on funding rounds, which is they continue
Right.
to meet VCs, investors, and all, and others are focusing on growing the business. And these people who are interacting with these investors and all, they set the business targets because we need these metrics so that I can raise the next round of funding and so on.
Right.
When you're going to this level, Siddharth, this is not small money. Like $10 million is like fucking 64 crores.
Yep.
So when I read this, and I don't know what the reality is, but it seemed like a shocker. No founder is this dumb. Some of the investors are some incredible people, and these investors come in with those kind of auditors and all that. And I think this is just a cover up of some weird shit which has happened with the founding team or internally in the business. And they just want to, quietly shut it down. And I'm just theorizing here, but what do you think?
Yeah, I honestly don't know, but what scares me is the fact that it is so easy to even raise that amount, and after raising that amount, having no obligation towards the investors, the staff, the customers, the dependents. Like there are so many stakeholders when you are such a huge company. So
Yep.
there should be repercussions if you one day just decide to shut it down.
Okay.
And I'm scared that because there is such a lack of oversight when it comes to startups and
Right.
private startups who raise money, that it is so easy now. Like it is an edtech firm. Edtech
Yes.
is the talk of the town.
Hmm.
There's no lack of money in edtech, and even after that, they have shut down just one fine day. Like according to an employee, everything was going well, and on Feb 4th, an official town hall was announced in the morning. And in the town hall, the founder announced that the organization has no funds to run its business and they are shutting it down. How is it so easy? It should be so. It should be a little more difficult, right? Like shutting down a company which has so many stakeholders' livelihoods dependent on the company running. Now all these employees are out on social media hunting jobs. Who's responsible for that? So that is what
Right.
scares me. Like this should be taken. This should be taken as a test case, and it should be set as an example. Like the authorities should do something about it. But I don't know. I like private company, hai, so nothing can really happen.
So I'm telling you, right? This is. I've seen this happen probably like 4 or 5 times, and typically it's been in sectors which are high competition, low margin sectors. Like food deliveries was a space where a lot of companies started and shut down, and that was fine because the burn rate in those companies was huge. But like, this doesn't make sense. EdTech companies have operated like, Siddharth, I'm not joking, they operated like 60-70% margin.
Yep.
It's a very cash positive business. They have to pay their teachers once a month and they take money from parents up front. Sometimes they take money from parents for like a year, 2 years.
For a year,
even.
yep.
So there's some weird fucked up shit going on. uh, I don't know. I'm just I just get a gut feeling that there's some weird shit which is going on here, because this makes no sense. Like the amount of money, $27 million, you're talking about 150, 200 crores.
Yep, yep.
What the fuck, dude?
You
Like,
don't run out of fucking 60 crores overnight. Like,
yeah,
like Feb 4 तक अगर सब सही था, Feb 3 तक,
yeah,
तो आई एम गेसिंग 10 दिन पहले रन आउट हुआ होगा, 10 या 15 दिन पहले। अगर
हाँ।
आप जैन भी मानते हो तो सितंबर में 64 करोड़ उठाया, सितंबर, अक्टूबर,
और सिद्धार्थ,
नवंबर,
एक और
दिसंबर,
चीज
4 मंथ्स।
एक और चीज, यहाँ पे कोई इन्वेंट्री परचेज नहीं हो रहा है। यहाँ पे
कुछ भी
आर
नहीं है
एंड
ना, खर्चा तो आपका सिर्फ
कस्टमर
फीचर्स
एक्विजिशन है, और
और
कस्टमर एक्विजिशन का
एक्विजिशन है।
खर्चा आप जब करते हो, एवरी डिजिटल मार्केटर विल टेल यू आराम से कन्वर्जन ट्रैकिंग कर सकते हो।
हाँ, like
सो
that,
यू
like dude, contracts are given out on cost per customer acquisition, right? The
एग्जैक्टली,
the CAC is calculated.
या सो
I don't
दिस
know.
इज, आई डोंट नो,
Something fishy.
वेरी
This
फिशी।
doesn't add up.
I hope it's not some swindled money case and all that. That'll
Yeah,
be sad.
let's just see.
Moving on to our next story, Siddharth, which is
मोटा भाई, मुकेश
Mota Bhai,
अंबानी।
export
मोटा भाई।
potential of $500 billion in clean energy. Uh,
So basically, Mukesh Ambani was at a conference, and he they've risen to 150 billion from less than 10 billion 20 years ago.
right.
And he says by 2030, I believe they will exceed $500 billion.
Hmm.
And he says similarly, India's clean and green energy exports in the next 20 years,
Hmm.
uh, you know have the potential of achieving $500 billion. And he says that, at least 20 to 30 new Indian companies will come in the energy and tech space,
Hmm.
which will grow as big as Reliance, if not
Right.
bigger. And he's saying this will gonna happen in the next 10 to 20 years.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but when Mukesh Ambani talks, I shut the fuck up and listen. Okay, because he's the big daddy of the corporate world right now.
Hmm.
Okay, whether you agree or not,
Hmm.
he is where the buck stops.
Hmm.
And if he is saying that India's clean energy potential
Hmm.
is $500 billion in the next 20 years,
Hmm.
then I believe it. Like, okay, it might be a little exaggerated, but
Hmm.
if the figure might be achievable in 20, if not 20 years, at least 30 to 40 years. So he is seeing that potential in
Hmm.
India, and he says that 20 to 30 companies will become as big as Reliance.
Yep.
Reliance took 30 years to touch $1 billion in market cap.
Yep.
15 years, sorry. And then they became, 2 billion, $3 billion companies in the next 3 4 years consequently. So he's saying ऐसा 3 4 कंपनी और आ जाएगा, तो मतलब कुछ तो देख रहा है मोटा भाई जो अपन लोग नहीं देख पा रहे हैं।
I also like when energy companies and such companies. I hope. I mean, he's obviously, done the math and he knows this is the case. A lot of core engineering employees end up getting a lot more jobs,
Yup,
and
yup.
I'm not talking about small jobs. I'm talking about like pretty good position jobs, and it's always good for. Like, look, guys, come on, software is just one part of engineering. So electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, civil engineers get a lot more jobs when you have energy being produced, even especially clean energy, which is a multidisciplinary effort.
Yup.
So, plus this also gives a boost for local manufacturing, because a lot of solar cells and all are locally manufactured these days. There's been some huge manufacturers which have come up. Uh, I'm not sure. I think this Ukraine crisis actually accelerates this, because
Quite possibly, yeah.
yeah, because dude, you never know, right? This can actually end up having a lot of positive impact on business. It's very, very likely. A lot of military pursuits generally are done for positive impact in business. So I'm looking forward to this. Also, this may also be Mukesh Ambani playing the optics game in the sense that his energy business will slowly start declining, is what I feel. The petrol and natural gas energy business is slowly going to start declining. With coal, he's going to have newer
No,
and
so
newer
he's already
restrictions.
set a target for decarbonizing his entire business.
Right. So I'm not sure. So the reason I bring this up is
So because I'm saying he's invested in green hydrogen already. He's
no,
the
no, no.
only
So I'm
producer.
I'm talking about that. So there was a very interesting study done, and I'll see if we can cover this in a future video. Basically, green uh, energy will at least as far as human consumption is concerned, green energy will not completely ever replace normal energy.
Fossil fuels.
Yeah, fossil fuels or even nuclear, and I hope
Okay.
there's more investments in nuclear because it just becomes more and more expensive. This happened in Germany. Germany set a very ambitious target of going green, shut down a lot of the fossil fuel plants, and they had to restart it because it just wasn't enough. So it's possible that to to safeguard his stock price, he may be saying stuff like this right now in the short term. The long term, of course, technology is going to get better and better, and it's going to make a difference. But in the short term, that if I was Motabai, I want to be seen as an innovator, right? Like I
Yeah,
got on
but
the data line.
I think his PR game would be much stronger than going to a randomized event and saying this. Like he's got a kick-ass PR team to.
Let's see.
Also, when it comes to technology, like we saw that in the case of solar panels, right?
Yeah.
Over the years, it has gone down the cost of manufacturing it. So you never know. We might just actually, figure out a way to produce hydrogen, very effectively and efficiently with renewable sources. And I think that's what he's talking about. So he's when he says he wants to decarbonize his business, he's not saying that I will stop producing energy. He's saying that I'll start producing energy from renewable sources, from green hydrogen, from wind, solar power, turbines. And he wants to stop, the oil and gas business completely. So obviously that's not going to happen. But
Yep.
he understands the optics and he knows that, I
What I
need to be
do know
safe.
is a lot of the infrastructure and a lot of manufacturers of clean energy should be ready because they can get some nice acquisition offers. So let's see how that goes.
He's been on an acquisition spree. He's
Yeah.
bought out companies left, right, and center in the energy space, especially the clean energy space.
Yeah, so you do know, right? Like he raised significant amount of capital to one is clear his debt and I mean two is reinvest. And three, this was this was a very nice conspiracy theory on Reddit, but he raised capital from the Dubai.
He did.
Why? Because he wanted to make sure that Pakistan doesn't fuck around with his petrol, what extraction unit, which is very close to the Pakistani border.
Jamnagar. No,
So
but
he raised it because everyone knows that Pakistan जब भी war किया इंडिया के साथ दुबई से ही पैसा आया.
But also vested interests. Now, if you have the Dubai ka ruler as an investor,
Yeah.
people will think before fucking with you. So yeah. Plus Saudi Aramco, dude.
Yeah.
The buck stops at Saudi Aramco when it comes to oil and
energy. Yeah.
And any oil company in the world would kill to have Saudi Aramco as a partner.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah.
So yeah, that's all for today, guys. I hope you liked our show. We'll try to make sure that we do it in the mornings itself because it becomes a bit hard at night. So that I'll try to make sure that I don't get into more business. But yeah, thank you so much. Nahi bhai, mat bol. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. See you all tomorrow.